Alright, hello everyone. Welcome to our lesson today on operations with rational numbers. Alright, so today we'll be learning about adding and subtracting with positive and negative numbers. Alright, as well as multiplying and dividing. Alright, so starting off with adding and subtracting, that we can always use a number line for. Alright, so let's take the first one here, -2 plus 5. Alright, so we start at -2. Right there. Boom, -2. And then we have to add 5 to it. When we're adding, we're moving to the right of the number line. So, going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, which means that we get 3. Okay, that's pretty much it. Alright, and then subtracting is just the opposite way. Starting with 4, we are adding a -6. Right? Adding a negative number essentially just means to subtract. If we add something negative, we are essentially adding something that will take away something. So, starting with 4, we move 6 to the left, 4, 5, 6, which gets us -2. Alright, and something to know here, we always try to put brackets in between the operations so we don't get confused. Right? If we just do something like 4 plus -6, right, that's a little confusing, right? Having two signs next to each other in math is very illegal. So we separate them using brackets. So here's some rule of thumbs to follow by. Right? If there are two positive numbers, we add them, and the answer is positive. Right? This is just regular addition. Literally like 2 plus 3. Right? Two positive numbers makes a positive number. But if you add two numbers and they're both negative, then the answer is always negative. So, -2 plus -3, right? You can just treat them as 2 plus 3, which is 5, but make sure that it's -5. Right? So just do the same thing, just add the numbers, and then make sure that it's a negative sign in front of them. Okay, how about here? Positive and negative. Right? If we are adding a positive and a negative, right? Actually, in both of those cases, we got a -2 and a +5, +4, -6. Right? In those cases, if the larger of the two is positive, then the answer is also positive. Similarly, if the large is negative, then the answer is also negative. Right? And to find, so when we add those, right, we're essentially subtracting them and then giving them a sign. So here's some examples here. Right? We got -3 and -2. Right? Is the example I used before. Right? All we're doing here is we notice here we have the 3 and the 2. We're just adding it to make a 5. And because they're both negative, just put negative sign in front. Right? In this question, we have a negative number and a positive number, -9 and then +2. And now we notice here that the bigger of the two is -9. All right, -9 is larger. Well, because 9 is bigger than 2. So all we have to do is take the difference. So we subtract the two numbers and make sure the answer is also negative. So we got 9 minus 2 is 7. And because -9 is bigger, this answer will be negative. Okay, that's it, we're done. All right, of course, you can see on the number line as well. All right, if we are -9, we add 2, right, to get to -7. Okay, next, same idea. We have a negative number, positive number. All right, and now, in this case, the positive number, the 10, is bigger. So we know the answer must be positive. So we take the difference, we subtract them. 10 minus the 6 is 4. And then that's it, we're done. Right, for numbers like this, you're more than welcome to use a number line to help you keep track. But this is kind of like the mental math method of figuring it out. Of course, we can have multiple numbers as well. Right, -10 and -2, both negative. So we add them up and make the answer negative. Of course, we got to add a 6 now afterwards. All right. Between the two, -12 is bigger, so the answer must be negative. Next, we just subtract them. 12 minus 6 is also 6. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. All right, so remember to make sure that for problems with multiple steps, always make sure the answer is in a box, so we know what the actual final step is, what the final solution is. Okay, let's try a few more here. All right, with addition, or with subtraction, is the exact same thing as addition, except we add the opposite number. That's being subtracted. So for example, looking at 4 minus 7 here, we can think of it as 4 adding a minus 7. All right, 4 minus 7 is just 4 adding a -7. Of course, we can then use the rules we use for the positive or for adding. -7 is bigger, answer must be negative, and then we just subtract the numbers, right? 7 minus the 4, -3. Done. All right, and so here, we add the opposite. All right, just like that. So now, with that, right, we are adding two negatives. And because there are two negatives, the answer must be negative. And because they're both the same sign, they're both negative, we add them to get 8. Right? We can see here, right, as a reminder, we're adding the opposite. This right here is a positive 3. Right, we're subtracting it, but we're subtracting the 3, but it's still a positive number. So we are adding a -3. Now let's try this now. So -4. Right, okay, we're adding the opposite. Right, as you can see here, we have a -3 now. The opposite of -3 is +3. So it just becomes -4 plus +3, or just +3. We know this here. Negative number is bigger. So it has to be negative something. 4 minus 3 is 1. Okay, and then lastly, a few more steps together, right? First, we notice here, we are subtracting a 11, or an 11. So we're adding the opposite. So we're just adding a -11. And then we add a -3. Check the first step. Both negative numbers, answer must be negative. Add them up, -13 plus a -3. Once again, both negative numbers, answer must be negative. 13 plus 3, 16. Right, just like that. Right, so this is the method that'll always work. Right, personally, I guess I kind of think of it differently. Right, but if you have your own method, right, of course you're more than welcome to show your own method as well. Alright, so this method is just kind of like weighing doubt, try this. Right, but as you see, it's still a lot of steps, right? We have to convert the negative or convert the minus into a plus -7. So if there's a method that works better for you, that's something that you can definitely use as well. Okay, last one, our last little topic today here is multiplying and dividing. If both of the numbers have the same sign, then the answer is positive. If they're different or opposite, The answer is negative. So take this one, negative 8 times 2. Or, yeah, negative 8 times 2. Know for sure 2 times 8 is 16. And because, as we can see here, that we have a negative number and a positive number, because they're different signs, opposite signs, the answer has to be negative. Next, we have negative 5 bracket negative 11. Right, so we don't actually have a sign here. We don't have an operation here. Right, we know for sure that it's not plus or minus. Right, this right here, in cases like this, when there's no operation signs in between the two numbers with just a bracket, it always means to multiply. Right, us mathematicians are lazy. Right, if you don't see a sign or an operation sign, it is multiply. So 5 times 11, 55. And because they're both negative, we know that it has to be positive 55. Oh, I should have to box it. Okay, they're both the same sign, both negative signs, so the answer must be positive. All right, here's a few more grouped together. All right, first we have 5 times negative 9, right? We always go from left to right. 5 times 9 is 45 because we have a single negative sign here and a positive sign, right? It's a positive number. We typically don't really need a plus here. Positive and negative number, we'd make a minus. Multiply that by 2. 45 times 2 is 90. Once again, a negative number, positive number. The signs are opposite. So the answer must be negative. Alright, we're gonna go reverse. 45 and a 9. 45 divided by 9 is 6. Positive and a negative. Two different or two opposite signs. Negative 6. Oh, sorry, not 6, 5. Okay, once again, left to right. 64 divided by 8 is 8. Because it is a negative 64 and a negative 8, the answer is positive, so it's just 8 times negative 3. I guess, again, just to make sure I'm lazy, I'm just gonna ignore the multiplication sign. 8 times 3 is 24. Negative 3, positive 8. Answer must be negative. Opposite signs. How about fraction? Right, always remember, fractions are just division. All right, 30 over negative 5 is the same thing as just 30 divided by negative 5. All right, a division sign looks like this. It's literally a fraction, right? A number on top, number on the bottom. Division sign is literally a fraction, right? We treat fraction as just division. 30 divided by 5 is 6. Oops, wrong color. Positive 30, negative 5. Two different opposite signs. Answer is negative. Alright, that's it. Alright, always remember this little pattern here, right? If the signs are the same, it's always positive. If the signs are different, it's always negative. Alright, that applies to plus and minus too. Alright, as you can see here, two negative signs here or two minus signs here makes it into a plus. Alright, so that's one important thing to always remember. Okay, and yeah, that's pretty much it for today's lesson. Alright, so, alright, that's all. Get practicing.